Do you feel it rising inside you right now? The unexplainable pull, the urgency, the trembling anticipation that something immense, something divine, something orchestrated far beyond human sight is stirring in the unseen realms and pressing its weight upon your spirit? This is not coincidence. This is not imagination. This is not the echo of your own thoughts. This is the voice of destiny whispering through the corridors of your heart, thundering through every cell of your being, declaring that God said, it's all planned for the end of December. And the time has come to open your eyes, steady your soul, and prepare for the unfolding of what you were created to witness. From the very beginning, long before you took your first breath, long before you knew what struggle was, long before doubt ever laid a hand on your mind, God had already written a chapter for a moment such as this. And now, as the days of this month move toward their final threshold, as the world rushes without understanding, as people chase distractions without hearing the whisper of eternity, there is a divine plan converging, aligning, forming, and tightening like the final strokes of a master craftsman completing a long-awaited masterpiece. God has set something into motion. Something precise, something unstoppable, something crafted with the brilliance of perfect wisdom and unshakable intention. You may not see it yet. You may not feel it fully. You may have been battling confusion, carrying burdens, wrestling with setbacks, wondering why this year unfolded the way it did, questioning the timing, the silence, the struggle. But hear this with the deepest part of your soul. None of it was random. None of it was wasted. None of it slipped through the fingers of God. Every delay was discipline. Every setback was repositioning. Every tear watered the soil of a future breakthrough. Every moment of waiting was a hammer shaping your strength for what God is about to release. When God says something is planned, it is not a suggestion, not a possibility, not a vague hope. It is certainty. It is decree. It is divine architecture. And when God marks a moment, when God draws a line across time itself and declares, this is when it shall unfold, nothing in the universe can stop it. So listen carefully. Let your spirit awaken. Let your inner fire rise. For God said it's all planned for the end of December. And because it is God who planned it, nothing can stand against it. There are moments when God prepares the earth quietly, without noise, without spectacle. Moments when everything looks ordinary on the outside while something extraordinary forms in the invisible. That is the season you have been living in. You have looked at your circumstances and wondered why there were no signs, no confirmations, no loud announcements from the heavens declaring what was coming. But God often works in the layers beneath what human eyes can see. A seed grows in darkness long before it breaks through the soil. A child develops in the hidden place long before the cry is heard. Purpose is refined in silence long before power is revealed. You have not been abandoned. You have been prepared. You have not been overlooked. You have been positioned. You have not been delayed. You have been aligned with the appointed time of God. And now that appointed time is drawing near, end of December. You may feel as if this year drained you, stretched you, tested you beyond what you imagined you could handle. You may have felt confusion pressing against your mind, uncertainty weighing on your decisions, exhaustion tightening its grip on your emotions. But all of this has been preparation for a divine unveiling. God strengthens a vessel before filling it. God expands capacity before pouring out blessing. God clears the path before releasing movement. God shakes what is unstable before establishing what must stand. Do you understand what this means for you? It means the pressure you felt was not punishment. It was preparation. The emptiness you experienced was not abandonment. It was the setup for a divine filling. The confusion was not disorder. It was the stripping away of distractions so you would be ready to see clearly. Because when God says something is planned, every detail is deliberate. Every obstacle is temporary. Every difficulty is purposeful. Every delay is strategic. God does not operate in chaos. God does not operate in uncertainty. God does not operate in guesses or half-formed intentions. God operates in precision, and the end of December has been marked with precision. This is why some things did not work earlier. This is why certain doors stayed shut. This is why people left your life unexpectedly. This is why opportunities slipped through your hands. This is why the answers you prayed for did not show up when you expected them. You were not being denied. You were being aligned with divine timing. At the end of December, there is a shift prepared for you, a breakthrough shaped for you, a release assigned to you, a moment calibrated perfectly by the wisdom of God, positioned at the intersection of your faith, your endurance, and your obedience. You are stepping toward a divine appointment you did not choose but were chosen for. And in this moment, you must do something vital. You must not shrink back. You must not fear. You must not doubt. You must not let the noise of this world drown out the whisper of God inside you, because God has already gone ahead of you. God has already laid the foundation. God has already cleared the unseen pathways. God has already orchestrated the connections, the conversations, the opportunities, the turnarounds, the revelations, the breakthroughs that will meet you as this month reaches its close. This is not merely an ending. This is a divine crossing. You are crossing from confusion into clarity. You are crossing from burden into breakthrough. You are crossing from stagnation into acceleration. You are crossing from what was into what must be. For too long, you have carried weight on your shoulders that was never meant to stay. For too long, you have allowed fear to whisper louder than faith. For too long, you have accepted the illusion that you were stuck, limited, boxed in, or forgotten. But when God marks a moment, everything that once held you loses its power. Chains break, walls crumble, doors swing open, shadows retreat. This is why your spirit has been restless. You have felt tension building. You have sensed the atmosphere shifting. You have awakened with a strange mixture of exhaustion and hope, weariness and expectation, because your spirit knows something your mind has not yet fully grasped. God is preparing a divine conclusion for this month that will usher you into a new dimension of clarity, boldness, purpose, and restoration. When God speaks of plans, those plans are not limited by circumstances, economy, timing, or human opinion. God does not need perfect conditions. God creates them. God does not need approval. God commands. God does not wait for permission. God initiates. And when God sets a time, the earth itself responds. The mountains shift, the seas adjust, the winds carry new instruction. The unseen world prepares, all creation aligns. Do not underestimate the magnitude of a moment ordained by God. When God planned the end of December for you, God marked a transformational point in your journey. One that requires attention, readiness, and faith that is not passive but active. Not hesitant, but bold. Not stagnant, but fiercely expectant. You may wonder, what is God planning? But the better question is, what is God preparing me to receive? Because the preparation of the vessel reveals the magnitude of what is coming. And you, through every test, every fire, every silent night, every unanswered question, have been prepared for something greater than you realize. God is preparing to release clarity to your mind, clarity that cuts through confusion like light cutting through darkness, clarity that replaces hesitation with conviction, clarity that destroys doubt and ignites an unshakable inner. Knowing that you were created for more than merely surviving, you were created to rise. God is preparing to restore what was lost, not in the same condition, not in the same form, but in a multiplied, refined, elevated measure. The losses you suffered will not be the final word spoken over your life. God's restoration is never equal exchange. God restores in abundance. God is preparing to bring alignment, divine alignment that puts the right people in your path, removes the wrong ones, and positions you exactly where you need to be for the next chapter of your life. You will not wander aimlessly. You will move with purpose. God is preparing to unlock doors, doors that no human could open, doors that no opposition can close, doors that lead to opportunities you once thought were out of reach. These are Doors forged by divine intention, not human effort. God is preparing to break chains of fear, insecurity, doubt, guilt, stagnation, and limitation. You will walk differently when these chains fall. You will speak differently. You will stand differently. You will live differently. This is a divine setup. This is a divine orchestration. This is a divine narrative written long before you ever understood the plot. But now you stand at the brink. Now you stand at the threshold of the moment God marked. Now you stand at the edge of a shift, crafted not by your strength, but by God's. And as the end of December approaches, you must stand ready. Not fearful, not doubting, not shrinking, but ready. This readiness is not physical. It is spiritual, it is mental, it is emotional. It is the readiness that says, I trust the plan, I trust the timing, I trust the process, I trust God. Because when God plans something, your role is not to control. Your role is to align. Your role is not to question every detail. Your role is to believe. Your role is not to fear what you do not understand. Your role is to anchor your soul in the one who understands all things. You may feel unqualified, but God qualifies. You may feel weak, but God strengthens. You may feel unsure, but God directs. You may feel small, but God amplifies. You may feel lost, but God guides. You may feel broken, but God rebuilds. And God has chosen the end of December as the moment when what has been forming in silence will begin to manifest in your life with unmistakable clarity. Do not underestimate this moment. Do not treat it casually. Do not let the distractions of the world dull your spiritual sensitivity. There is something sacred about what God has prepared. There is something holy about what is approaching. There is something profound unfolding in the unseen. Something so precise that even the trials of your past year were woven perfectly into its design if you were meant to arrive at this moment untouched, untested, and unchallenged. Then God would not have allowed the fires you faced. But fire refines, fire purifies, fire strengthens, and you, whether you realize it fully or not, are standing stronger today than you were at the beginning of this year. You are wiser, you are deeper, you are more resilient, you are more spiritually awake, you are more prepared. The battles that nearly broke you did not break you. They shaped you. The nights when you cried out in silence did not weaken you. They awakened you. The moments when you questioned everything did not derail you. They recentered you. The delays that frustrated you did not diminish you. They matured you. God has been molding you for the moment that is coming. And now, as the days move toward the end of December, the shift becomes imminent. You may not know the exact form it will take. You may not know the exact door it will open. You may not know the exact change it will bring. But you will know this: God is in it. God's fingerprints will be unmistakable. God's timing will be undeniable. God's presence will be unmistakable. God's orchestration will be undeniable. Your task now is simple. Open your spirit. Lift your expectations. Strengthen your faith. And lean into this divine moment with everything inside you. For God said it's all planned for the end of December. And when God plans, all creation aligns. When God plans, destiny shifts. When God plans, nothing can stop what is coming. And now listen closely, because what I am about to speak is not for the surface level of your mind. It is for the depths of your spirit, where truth settles with unshakable authority. There are moments in life when God does not simply guide you. God redefines you. Moments when the hand of God separates you from who you were and ushers you into who you must become for the next dimension of your destiny. And the end of December is not merely an event. It is a divine transition point, a spiritual recalibration designed to shift your identity, your perspective, your strength, your clarity, and your purpose into alignment with what God has prepared. You are not stepping into the conclusion of a month. You are stepping into the unveiling of a divine intention that has been forming over your entire journey. God has been shaping your character in the hidden places, stretching your endurance in the silent places, and sharpening your discernment in the difficult places, so that when this appointed moment arrives, you will stand not as a spectator, but as a participant in the plan of God. This moment requires more from you than ordinary living. It requires spiritual alertness, inner discipline, and unwavering expectation. Understand this: when God prepares a turning point, God always precedes it with a stirring in the soul. That stirring you have felt, the restless yearning, the subtle unease, the strange mixture of hope and uncertainty, is the inner recognition that something is ending, something is beginning, and you stand between the two. Your spirit senses what your eyes cannot yet see. Your heart knows what your circumstances have not yet confirmed. This is how God prepares a person for divine transition. Not through ease, but through awakening. God is awakening your inner confidence. God is awakening your inner courage. God is awakening your inner authority, the authority that has been buried beneath fear, doubt, and disappointment, the authority that comes not from your own strength, but from the truth that God is guiding you, God is with you, and God is directing the path ahead of you with perfect wisdom. The end of December is not a passive moment. It is a call for you to rise from the complacency of the past season, a call for you to release what no longer carries purpose, a call for you to loosen your grip on limiting patterns, limiting beliefs, limiting relationships, and limiting fears that once felt familiar but no longer fit the person you are becoming. God cannot pour new strength into a heart still anchored to old weights. God cannot reveal new direction to a mind still clinging to old confusion. God cannot elevate a spirit still tangled in the memory of past failures. You must release to rise. You must surrender to step forward. You must trust deeply to receive fully. There are breakthroughs that cannot come until you empty your hands of everything that drains you. There are blessings that cannot land until your spirit stands open, uncluttered, and unburdened. There are opportunities that cannot manifest until you fully detach from teach, doubts that have kept you anchored. And this is the reason God has been pressing on your heart. This is the reason certain situations grew uncomfortable. This is the reason your spirit could no longer tolerate what you once accepted. God was not punishing you. God was preparing you, extracting, refining, stirring, awakening you for what is approaching. Do not underestimate the spiritual intelligence of God. God does not simply want you ready. God wants you aligned. God wants you steady. God wants you unshakable. God wants you internally anchored so deeply that when the release comes, you do not collapse under the weight of what you prayed for. Blessing requires backbone. Breakthrough requires stability. Expansion requires maturity. And God, in infinite wisdom, has been strengthening your foundation so that when the shift comes at the end of December, you will not be overwhelmed. You will be elevated. There is something powerful that happens when a human spirit reaches the point of surrender. Not surrender to circumstances, not surrender to fear, not surrender to confusion, but surrender to the sovereignty of God. It is here in the quiet surrender that you begin to understand that God's timing is not delay, it is design. God's silence is not distance, it is strategy. God's redirection is not rejection, it is protection. Every step of this year, even the ones that felt painful, even the ones that felt uncertain, even the ones that made you question the path, were steps God used to place you at the exact threshold you are now approaching. You are not late, you are not behind, you are not forgotten, you are right on time, God's time. And when God's time arrives, it overturns every human timeline. It overrides every negative expectation. It dissolves every barrier that once felt immovable. It makes the impossible suddenly attainable. It breathes life into what once seemed dormant. It resurrects dreams you buried too soon. It rekindles passions you thought you lost. It reignites hope where disappointment once lived. This is why you must enter these final days of December with a posture of inner readiness. Lift your expectations higher. Expand your capacity for belief. Stand with spiritual confidence. Speak with boldness. Move with intention. For God responds to a spirit that stands ready to receive. What is coming is not small. What is coming is not ordinary. What is coming is not a mere improvement. It is a divine elevation that will require you to rise to a new level of spiritual courage and openness. And hear this clearly, God is not preparing to simply change your situation. God is preparing to change you. The greatest shift of this divine moment is internal. It is the shift that turns insecurity into strength. It is the shift that turns anxiety into clarity. It is the shift that turns hesitation into purpose. It is the shift that turns quiet longing into bold action. When God transforms the inner world, the outer world must follow. This is the transformation that is stirring even now, quietly but powerfully. You are being prepared to carry more wisdom, wisdom that does not come from intellect alone, but from spiritual insight sharpened by experience. Wisdom that allows you to navigate challenges without fear and opportunities without hesitation. Wisdom that allows you to recognize which paths are meant for you and which are distractions disguised as possibilities. This wisdom is a divine gift, and it is unfolding within you in preparation for what God has planned. You are being prepared to carry more clarity, clarity that reveals your next step, your next call, your next responsibility, clarity that cuts through confusion and allows you to see the path ahead with confidence, clarity that replaces doubt with inner stability. God, not leading you into the next chapter blindly. God is illuminating the way. You are being prepared to carry more courage. Courage that is not born from emotion, but from conviction. Courage that comes from knowing God is guiding every step. Courage that empowers you to speak where you once stayed silent, to move where you once hesitated, to stand where you once retreated. This courage is your inheritance for the season that is coming. You are being prepared to carry more peace, not the fragile peace that depends on circumstances, but the deep, unshakable peace that comes from trusting the plan of God even when you cannot see the details. Peace is your strength for this transition. And you are being prepared to carry more spiritual authority, the authority to step into environments with confidence, to rise above fear, to break the patterns that once held you captive, to walk with the certainty that God's hand is upon you. This authority is awakening within you even now. The end of December is not just a moment, it is a divine activation. It is the moment when God shifts what has been forming internally into visible manifestation. It is the moment when seeds sown in tears begin to bloom in breakthrough. It is the moment when the quiet faith you held through trials becomes the loud evidence of God's guidance in your life. It is the moment when everything that once felt scattered begins to align with the precision only God can orchestrate. Do not approach these final days casually. Approach them with expectation. Approach them with reverence. Approach them with a spirit ready to receive what God has already declared. The divine plan is already in motion. The alignment has already begun. The shift is already unfolding. And when God sets a moment, all that is required of you is faith, openness, and readiness, because God has spoken, and what God speaks cannot return empty. God has declared the moment. God has prepared the path. God has refined the vessel. God has strengthened your spirit. God has marked the timing. God has set the end of December as the moment when what has been hidden will begin to rise and what has been delayed will begin to accelerate. And now, let your heart absorb this truth with a seriousness that settles deep into your bones. When God prepares a defining moment in your life, God does not merely shift circumstances. God shifts realms. God shifts atmospheres. God shifts what surrounds you and what works within you. You are being ushered into a period where the invisible world will respond to the command of God on your behalf in ways you have not yet witnessed. At the end of December, something is not only changing around you, something is changing for you, something is changing through you, and something is changing because of who God is shaping you to become. There comes a time when God releases a new measure of strength within a person, a strength that does not come from personality, from confidence, or from human support. It is strength born from divine backing. You will recognize it when you find yourself doing what once intimidated you. You will notice it when you begin speaking with a boldness you did not rehearse. You will feel it when fear attempts to rise, but no longer finds a home. This is the strength that comes when God prepares a vessel for a greater assignment. The end of December has been appointed as the moment when that inner strength begins to reveal itself not as theory, but as living reality. You have been growing even when you felt stagnant. You have been elevating even when you felt stuck. You have been moving forward even when it seemed like nothing around you was shifting. Growth in God is often silent. Progress under God is often invisible until the appointed moment arrives for it to show itself. And that moment, this God-appointed unveiling is approaching with unstoppable certainty. What you must understand now is that God does not bring you to divine moments so you can observe. God brings you so you can participate. This participation requires your alignment. It requires your willingness. It requires your openness to allow God to break patterns within you that cannot accompany you into your next level. There are old attitudes, old reactions, old fears, and old tendencies that have expired. God has allowed them to become uncomfortable, not to shame you, but to signal that you cannot carry the weight of the past into the glory of what is coming. This is why you have felt a deep internal agitation, not anxiety, agitation, an inner rumbling that makes it impossible to stay at the level you've been in. That agitation is divine. God is stirring your spirit so that you cannot settle. God is waking you so you cannot drift. God is pulling you upward so you cannot sink. This agitation is the spiritual evidence that a shift is coming and your soul is preparing for it. And this shift is not merely circumstantial, it is dimensional. You are being called into a deeper dimension of trust, a deeper dimension of listening, a deeper dimension of surrender, and a deeper dimension of awareness. When God elevates you, God does not elevate you into more noise. God elevates you into more clarity. And that clarity will be essential for what God is releasing. The end of December carries the weight of divine timing. And when God times something, nothing else has authority over it. Not the opinions of others, not the resistance of circumstances, not your past failures, not even your own doubts. Divinely orchestrated timing overrides everything that once hindered you. God's timing is the great equalizer, the great restorer, the great corrector, the great accelerator. It does not follow the patterns of human time. It establishes its own rhythm, its own pace, its own season. And in this season, God is not only preparing to restore what was lost, God is preparing to transform what you once settled for. There are blessings you once accepted in small measure because you did not yet believe you were worthy of the fullness. But God is shifting your perception so that you no longer settle for survival, but reach for fulfillment. You no longer settle for minimal results, but expect divine abundance. You no longer settle for comfort zones, but step boldly into calling zones. God is expanding your spiritual capacity. And with expanded capacity comes expanded responsibility. God is not only giving to you, God is growing you so you can carry what is coming without collapsing beneath it. God is shaping your emotions so they can hold peace under pressure. God is strengthening your mind so it can hold vision without wavering. God is deepening your spirit so it can hold wisdom without pride. This divine preparation has not been easy, but it has been intentional. And now comes a higher truth. God is preparing to bring clarity to things that have confused you for years. Situations of uncertainty, tangled relationships, patterns you couldn't break, decisions you couldn't settle into, the fog around them is lifting. God is ready to unveil what has been hidden behind uncertainty. This unveiling will not come with chaos. It will come with peace. Peace that does not ask for explanation. Peace that settles like a divine signature upon your spirit, confirming that God is guiding you exactly where you are meant to be. The shift at the end of December is not only about what God is giving you, it is also about what God is removing from your path. Divine removal is an act of mercy. When God takes something away, it is never to diminish you. It is to clear your vision, to protect your future, to make room for what aligns with your destiny. What God removes was never meant to stay. What God allows to remain carries purpose you do not yet fully see. Trust this divine separation, even when it feels unfamiliar. There is also a divine acceleration coming, and you must prepare for it. Acceleration from God is not human speed. It is divine force. It is when years of waiting are answered in moments. It is when delayed prayers meet their appointed hour. It is when things you struggle to initiate suddenly flow with ease. Acceleration is not about rushing, it is about alignment. When you step into alignment with God's timing, what once felt impossible becomes inevitable. And let this truth settle deeply. Acceleration is coming because your preparation is complete. God does not accelerate a soul that is unprepared. God does not move a person into new territory while they still cling to old ways of thinking. God has refined you so that when the acceleration begins, you move with grace, not panic, purpose, not confusion, confidence, not fear. You must also understand that this divine moment is not only for you. God prepares individuals so they can impact environments. God strengthens you so you can strengthen others. God reveals truth to you so you can speak truth where silence once dominated. God lifts you so you can lift those who have fallen. You are being prepared not only for breakthrough, but for influence, divine influence that flows not from ego, but from obedience. There will come a moment soon when you will look at your life and realize that the shift God brought was not random, not abrupt, not sudden, but perfectly crafted. You will see how every step this year was stitched with precision. The disappointments that wounded you, the lessons that awakened you, the changes that startled you, the burdens that nearly broke you, they were all components of a divine curriculum, preparing you for the moment that is almost here. And hear this with unwavering conviction. God is not preparing to give you what you lost. God is preparing to give you what you were always meant to carry. Some losses felt devastating because you believed the future depended on what you were holding. But God removes what cannot accompany your destiny. God replaces what cannot sustain your purpose. And God gives in a way that exceeds what you believe possible. As you approach the end of December, walk with the spirit of expectation. Not passive waiting, active expecting. Expect clarity, expect peace, expect direction, expect elevation, expect divine opening, expect breakthrough, expect transformation, expect alignment, expect God's hand to reveal what your heart has long sensed. For God has spoken, and what God speaks becomes reality in its appointed season. And that season is rapidly approaching. And now, as this message settles into the deepest chambers of your spirit, let your heart rise with a seriousness that does not fade when the moment ends. Let every breath you draw remind you that you are standing at the edge of a divine invitation. An invitation not simply to witness the work of God, but to participate in it with the full force of your faith, your will, your courage, and your surrender. This is the moment where you look at your life with honesty, where you strip away the excuses that have stalled you, where you face the habits that have weakened you, where you confront the fears that have silenced you, and you make a choice that will echo far beyond this hour. The choice to live aligned with God, guided by God, shaped by God, anchored in God. Let this be the moment you stop drifting and start directing your steps with intention. Let this be the moment you stop carrying what drains you and make room for what strengthens you. Let this be the moment you confront the truth you have avoided and step into the path you were always meant to walk. God is calling you to rise, not slowly, not timidly, not half-heartedly, but fully, boldly, and without reservation. Rise in your thinking, rise in your discipline, rise in your devotion, rise in your purpose, rise in your awareness of who you are becoming under the guidance of God. Allow God to reshape your priorities. Allow God to renew your focus. Allow God to bring clarity to the areas of your life that have remained blurred. Allow God to awaken the courage you have buried beneath disappointment. Allow God to strengthen the will you once surrendered to fear. This is your call to return to what truly matters, to walk in the rhythm of truth instead of the noise of distraction, to choose inner transformation over outer approval, and to live with a heart that is open, humble, and ready to be led. Let your actions reflect the depth of your faith. Let your words carry the weight of your conviction. Let your decisions show that you trust the wisdom of God more than the uncertainty of circumstances. This is your moment to reclaim your identity, to renew your intention, to realign your life with the path that God crafted for you long before you realized its significance. And above all, let your heart draw closer to God with every step you take. Closer in gratitude, closer in humility, closer in purpose, closer in trust. Move forward not with fear of the unknown, but with confidence in the one who knows all things. Lift your head, steady your spirit, strengthen your resolve. Align your heart with the voice of God and walk forward, carrying the truth that has been spoken into your soul. For when you walk in the direction God is calling you, you walk in strength, in clarity, in purpose, and in the unshakable assurance that your life is guided by a wisdom far greater than your own.